I'm Nolan Luke. This is Insurance Info You Need to Know. I'm back here with Jessica Littlejohn. In previous podcasts, I introduced you as our personal lines manager. You do a great job. But how long you been with us?
About 10 years now.
All right. So you're telling me, I gave you that job as a manager, or you earned it?
I definitely had to earn it. I came in with no experience and had to learn and work my way up.
Awesome. Well, Jessica, you're here today because what I really want to do is, I want to, teach our clients. I want to teach potential clients of ours, just basic stuff about insurance, right? Because, people come in really with no knowledge, right? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to establish a library of, what's a homeowner's policy, what's an automobile policy, what's the deductible, and I'm gonna have multiple, podcasts they can look at because I want people out there really know what they're buying, right?
Absolutely.
So today, if you can help us with, the basic automobile insurance, in the state of Louisiana where we shooting a podcast from, it's mandatory to have. And, they got all kind of different limits, but they don't even understand, what is liability and the limits, what is uninsured motors, what is underinsured motors, what's medical pay, what's comp collision, and on. So I want to take a few minutes today, if you don't mind, really getting in details about, the automobile. The first thing that by law that, we need to establish that it's governed by the state of Louisiana, you have to have liability. That's the only one coverage that you have to have. I think the minimum today is what, 1530, 25 or 1530? What is it?
1530, 25.
That's the minimum today. Well, so that's the minimum. But what is the first 15? What is 15, 30, 25? What does it cover, your policy? What's the first 15?
So the first 15,000 is really your bodily injury per person. So if you get in an accident and you're at fault and you injure people in that other vehicle, the most any one person is going to get is that first number.
And when you say bodily injury, that's any damage personally they got,
Yeah.
right? So that could be their medical bill, pain and suffering. Our insurance company, that first 15,000 would only go to 15,000 max for that one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you established that. So what is the 30?
The 30, the second number in that split limit is the max per occurrence. So let's just say there's 3 people in that vehicle and your limits are 15, 30, 25. They're not all going to get 15,000. The max total for bodily injury the company's going to pay out is 30,000. So those 3 people would each get a limit of 10,000 per person.
Okay, so if it's one person in the car or 2 people in the car, they each can get 15,000 if it's warranted, right? Mm-hmm. But once you start getting to families in a car, the max they're going to pay is 30,000. Yep. But the max one person can get if they hurt a little bit more is 15, correct? So we established what the 15 and the 30 is. What is the 25?
So that third limit is going to be your property damage limit. That's going to actually be what your policy is going to pay for other people's vehicles when you're at fault in an accident.
So it's not your own, right? That comes under another coverage we're going to talk about.
Correct.
But that other 30 is the damage you caused on other people's vehicles, motorbikes, homes, whatever.
That's your property damage limit, and that's max per the policy. So if you have the state minimum 15, 30, 25, 25,000 is the max that your policy will pay out for damage to other people's property.
It works the same way. So if you caused and you hit 2 or 3 cars, 25 is still your limit, huh?
Yeah, you could easily max out that 25,000 limit with multiple vehicles.
Right, I understand. That's why it's so important you to understand your coverages, right? Because, you're buying what's required by law. You think you got the right coverages, but when you understand what the 15, 30, 25 is, it realized that limit could be low. It could put you in jeopardy, right?
Absolutely. Even honestly, with the cost of new vehicles nowadays, you may hit one new vehicle and exhaust that property damage limit.
Right. Awesome. The next thing on it is uninsured motors, right? And, there's a way for you to reject uninsured motors. You can lower uninsured motors, but in general, a lot of people don't understand what uninsured motors is. And usually it's it's 1530. Let's just keep with the same pace. Let's say it's 1530. Can you explain what 1530 is?
Yeah, so your uninsured motorist, this is uninsured motorist bodily injury coverage, and this is going to protect you and people in your vehicle for bodily injury. If you're injured and you have medical expenses, pain and suffering, and the other party who's at fault doesn't have insurance, or if they have insurance but their limits are exhausted, your policy will then kick in and respond and pay out your medical expenses under your uninsured motorist.
So when I say, I have uninsured motorists, the same limits of my liability, 15, 30, and somebody hits me that don't have any insurance, and I incur pain and suffering, some medical bills, but I still only can get $15,000, right? That first limit.
That first limit is per person, and the second limit is per occurrence. So
They're really the same thing as your liability, right? How that 1530 reads, correct?
Yep.
Good. But they also got, and on your policy, where they got uninsured motorist property damage. So when can you buy that coverage, and what is that coverage?
So that is to protect your vehicle if you're hit by someone with the uninsured motorist. And in the state of Louisiana, if you carry full coverage on your vehicle, comprehensive and collision coverage, the uninsured motorist property damage is not available to us. Now in
So
other
you can't
states,
even buy it though, right? If you got full coverage, comp and collision, you can't even buy uninsured motorist property damage, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Not in Louisiana. Other
Right.
states that may differ, but in Louisiana, your vehicle would be covered under your full coverage.
All right, so how that really works, uninsured motorist property damage?
If you have an older vehicle that you're not carrying full coverage on, you may want the uninsured motorist property damage. That way, if you're not at fault and someone hits you and doesn't have insurance, that property damage limit will come into play to pay out to replace your vehicle.
So what you're telling me, if I have uninsured motorists of 25,000, okay, and somebody hit me that don't have any insurance, and I have 10,000, and I just got liability on my vehicle, and uninsured motorist, but if I just have uninsured motorist property added to my uninsured motorist, and I got $10,000 worth of damage, the uninsured motorist property damage. So is this the way you protect your car if somebody else is at fault and don't have coverage? And you just taking a risk yourself when you're saying, I don't want comp and collision. Is that
Correct.
Good.
Yep.
I understand that. So another part of the policy, we went over liability. We understand what the 1530, 25 is. We understand uninsured motors and uninsured motors property damage. But they got, I see where they're, just like a homeowner's, also on automobile, they got med pay. So what is that?
Medical payments is similar to your bodily injury coverages, but this will pay out regardless of fault. So even if you're not at fault for something, but you have a friend that was in your vehicle and they have a broken arm and you want to cover the cost of their broken arm, you can ask your insurance company to cover those costs, submit those bills, and they will pay out even if you're not at fault for that.
But it's not really for yourself. Can I claim on medical expenses? It's just for people in your car?
People in your car or other people in other person's vehicles.
Okay, awesome. So when it comes down, that's all, taking care of, people's stuff, right? When you got the protection with the property damage to take care of the car. You got the liability to take care of them. You got uninsured motorists to take care of yourself. But at the end of the day, what coverages protect your car? I know they got comprehensive, they got collision. So explain the differences between comprehensive and collision.
So both of those coverages are to protect your vehicle. Collision is kind of self-explanatory. If you're in an accident or you collide with something, another vehicle or an object, your collision coverage will pay out. And you don't really choose a limit for collision coverage, you choose a deductible, and that's the portion that you're going to be responsible for before the insurance company starts to pay out. With comprehensive, it's sometimes called other than collision coverage. This is going to be to protect your vehicle for things other than a collision. So
Like
this
what?
could be a fire, a flood.
So you don't need to go buy a flood policy for your car. If you go down and you're catching a rainstorm and it gets flooded, that falls under your comprehensive. It also covers theft, is that correct?
Yep, theft, wind, if a tree falls on your vehicle while it's parked in front of your home during a
Covers
hurricane.
windshields?
Yep.
Okay. So realistically, if you was at fault and you run into a pole, a tree, or another party, your collision takes care of your section, right? And if somebody hits you and damages, they're really responsible for your damages, right? And I know that you said that, there's really not a limit on, where you set your own limit, where I want 10,000 coverage, 25. But there's a way for the insurance company to establish, right? It's called what, a blue book or something?
Yeah,
or
they're
NDA?
calculating the blue book or the NDA values of your vehicle at the time of the loss, what that vehicle was worth and what you could sell it for.
Good. So they take that minus the deductible, and that's what you get.
Correct.
Awesome. And if there's a total loss of a theft or a flood of your car, it works the same way, right? They go to the manuals, right? The blue books and an established amount, and you get paid for it.
Correct.
Right? And so on that part, so you did a great job explaining the coverages, the comp and collision, but they got some little extra things that you can purchase, right? That I think is value. Right?
Absolutely.
And so can you explain, the two things, or the towing aspect of a policy is very cheap. Yeah, I think everybody should look into that. And also, rental. Can you explain towing and rental a little bit?
Yeah, so your towing coverage, it's normally, like you mentioned, very cheap, $50 for 6 months or $100 for the year. And if you're in an accident and you can't drive your vehicle away, you may have to have that vehicle towed. And your towing coverage will kick in to cover the cost of that tow to the nearest shop or your shop of choice.
But let me ask you a question. So we get in a wreck, but what happens if I went to a shopping center, or I'm going down the road and my vehicle just conks out? Would it tow you from that location
That's a good question, and honestly, it depends on the company and the policy.
Right.
Some companies will come in and tow you due to mechanical breakdown. Some of them, they'll only kick in the towing coverage for damage covered under the policy.
Right, because I know that's a great question, and it's great, so you got to read your policy, but I know some policies, if you go out, well, almost every policy, if you're at home and you go and start your car and your battery's dead, they're not paying, right? But if you're left stranded, I know some companies pick it up and some people don't.
Yeah,
right?
there's another element. Some of them offer towing and roadside assistance, and that roadside assistance will come out there and jumpstart you if your battery dies, help you out if you lock your keys in your car, fill up your tank if you ran out of gas while you're driving. So it's always best to check with your agent on what your specific policy covers and what's available.
And the last part of your policy is rental reimbursement, right? And so I know that could be valuable if you're getting to and from work, but tell a little bit about how that works.
Rental reimbursement is a great coverage to have because if something does happen to your vehicle, the shop will need some time to get that repaired and back up and running for you. And rental reimbursement will provide you a rental vehicle to use during the time while your vehicle is down and being repaired.
Awesome. So if I get in a wreck and I know it's going to take me 2 weeks, the company would pay for that car that I wrecked for 2 weeks. And really, your life don't change. But if you had it, it will change. If you don't have it, correct?
Correct.
It puts pressure on the thing. So, again, we're going to have different podcasts with different subjects. Thank you for explaining the auto policy to us. And again, I appreciate what you do for us. And thank you for spending time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate you.